Welcome back. So for this week, I want to talk about some of our heroes. Heroes throughout Tanakh and the Torah, heroes in Jewish history. Sometimes we're so accustomed to our heroes, we take them for granted. We forget about the lives they lived, the heroism that they exhibited, the adversity that they faced that built them into who they were. But I think if you focus on that, if you focus on the human aspect, there's a tremendous amount to learn, and there's tremendous lessons to be learned. Yosef Tzaddik was hated by his brothers. They were jealous of him, they disliked him, they thought he was doing the wrong thing. They threw him into a pit to die. They changed their mind, and they sold him as a slave. Yosef goes down to Mitzrayim, and he's a slave in the house of Potiphar. And what's happening? Every single day of the year, his master's wife is trying to entice him. Until it gets to the point, what does Yosef do? Yosef runs out of the house, leaving his beged behind in her hands. You would think after such a level of Mesiras Nefesh, okay, this is it. Redemption is going to come. Yosef's finally going to be saved. But no, now he ends up in jail. Yosef has every reason to be down in the dumps, to be depressed. But what happens? Rashi brings out a measure that tells us that the Shem Hashem was constantly on Yosef's lips. Everything Yosef did, he was talking to Hashem. Ad kidei kach, so much so, that when he would serve his master, he would serve his master's wife, he would say, please Hashem, let me find favor in their eyes, let it taste good, let it be well. They asked him, what are you whispering? Are you trying to do kishuf? Are you trying to cast a spell? What on earth are you whispering? And Yosef explained to them, no, I'm just talking to Hashem. But Yosef didn't let the bitterness get him down. Yosef took that bitterness and he channeled it into constantly talking to Hashem. He uplifted that bitterness. And what came from Yosef? Besides the fact that Yosef became Yosef at Tzaddik, we had two new Shvatim, Ephraim and Menashe, that came from Yosef, and Mashiach ben Yosef. David HaMelech, King David. David HaMelech had a tremendously difficult life. As a child, he was shunned by his family. When he was finally anointed king, Shaul HaMelech was trying to kill him. David HaMelech had to live on the run. When he finally got the throne, his sons rebelled against him. But what's David HaMelech doing this whole time? He's davening, he's composing the Tehillim. What's his one request that he has? Hashem, the one thing that I'm asking from you, Hashem, the one thing that my mind is on, is shifti beveis Hashem kol yemei chai. I want to live in the house of Hashem. I want to be with Hashem my entire life. What do we get from David HaMelech? We get Mashiach. We get the final Geula. Purim's coming up. We're so used to think of Purim as this happy story with an unbelievably happy ending, how everything got turned around. And it's true. And Queen Esther and Esther Malka, she's the heroine of the story. It's true as well. But there's one person that the Purim story does not have a good ending for, besides for Haman, obviously. But there's one person that the Purim story does not have a good ending for, and that is Esther Malka, Queen Esther. If you think about it for a minute, in her wildest dreams, Esther probably never would have foresaw her life going the way it did. She wanted to raise a Jewish family, have children with Mordechai Tzaddik. I'm sure she had goals, she had aspirations, but what happens? HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts her in the situation where now she's married to Achashverosh. She has every reason to be depressed. What does Mordechai tell her? Mordechai tells her, if you don't rise to the occasion, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will find somebody else. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to say to the Yidden, it could either come through you or it could come from somebody else. Esther accepts that. Esther rises to the challenge. And then comes the saddest words of the Megillah. What does Esther say? She accepts on herself that there's no going back. There's no going back to Mordechai anymore. Until now she is married to Mordechai. Now that she's going willingly to Achashverosh, she's not going to be able to stay with Mordechai anymore. She'll be lost from Mordechai. She's not going to be a part of Klal Yisrael. She's not going to be living with the Yidden anymore. She's going to be lost from the Klal Yisrael. She's going to be in this no man's land, caught in this limbo. The Jewish queen, but not really a part of the Yidden, not part of Mordechai, not part of her old life anymore. And what does Esther say? This is how I'm going to come to the king. This is how I'm coming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. With nothing left. With absolutely nothing left. Yosef Tzaddik, David HaMelech, Esther Malka, they had every reason to be bitter. Mar. But what they do, they took the mar, they turned it around. Mar is mem resh. When you take the mar and you turn it around, you get resh mem. You uplift it. Rather than letting the bitterness bring them down, they channeled it all to Hashem and became uplifted, reaching the greatest possible heights. There's a beautiful, beautiful story, a Purim story, that's interestingly enough, it's brought down, Rav Shimshon Pincus brings it down in Nesichos on Chanukah, but he says that he heard the story from the person that it happened to. The story took place in communist Russia behind the Iron Curtain during the time that Stalin was rounding up all the doctors and all the academics. And this person's father, this person's husband was a doctor, and one day he disappeared. When that happened, all the neighbors stopped talking to this family. They were too afraid to associate with them. You never knew in communist Russia who was watching. You never knew what kind of connections would be drawn. And the mother and the son were living all alone together with nothing. They had no idea if the father was alive, where he was, or what the story was. Purim was approaching, and the mother, she told her son, she said, what should we do? We have nobody to give Mishloach Manos to. No one will talk to us or have anything to do with us. She said, you know what? She told her son, let's give our Mishloach Manos to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's give it to Hashem. There's one person we can still talk to, not a person, but there's one person we can still talk to. Let's give it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's the only one that still wants to have what to do with us. But then she realized that there's another problem. They didn't have what to put into the Mishloach Manos. The din is, the halacha is that for Mishloach Manos you need to have two food items. You need to have two separate items. The only extra thing they were able to dig up in their house was a small cookie or a small piece of cake. They had nothing to give along with that. And the same, they're trying to figure out what to do. And the son tells the mother, he says, listen, Mommy, Abba always exhorted us to live a life of simcha, to be happy, to be joyful. But right now, life isn't very happy. Life isn't very joyful. We don't really have what to be happy about. To the contrary, we're constantly crying. We're constantly in a state of sorrow. Let's take our tears that we cry. Let's use those tears. We'll moisten the cake with our tears, and we'll let the tears be the second item that we're giving HaKadosh Baruch Hu and our Mishloach Manos. Our Mishloach Manos will be our cake and our tears. And Kachava, this is what happened. The mother and the son sat there crying over their father, crying over their situation. The cake became damp with tears. They put it together and they said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is our Mishloach Manos that we're sending you. They finished preparing the Mishloach Manos, and there's a knock at the door. In walks the father, who they haven't seen all year. Before the mother even greets the father, she turns to her son and she says, wow, look, we sent HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mishloach Manos. Look what HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent back. He sent us back our father. This family had every reason to be bitter about their lot in life. Every reason to say, you know what, this year, we're going to skip the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos. This year we're putter from the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos. But they didn't. They took the mar, they took the bitterness in their life, and they turned it around. They channeled it to Hashem. The tears that they cried became a loving Mishloach Manos that they presented to Hashem. They uplifted the bitterness, turning it from mar into rum. Let's try in our own lives to live a little higher and to take the bitterness that we may experience in our lives and channel it upwards. Let's try to use it as a way to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to connect upwards and not let it bring us down into the depths when we're crying. Let's give those tears to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara Bava Metzia says that even if all the gates in Shemayim are closed, there's one gate that's always open, and that's the gate of tears. The shar that the tears could always break through. The Ben Yehuda brings down from the Arizal that when a person's crying, what's he supposed to have in mind? He's supposed to have in mind that let my bitter tears be mamtik the din. Let my bitter tears sweeten the judgments against me. We have to take the bitterness in our lives. We have to try to turn it around. Take it from mar into rum, to channel it upwards, to channel it as an opportunity to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. She'll have a lot of siyata d'shmaya in doing so.